Silly billies. Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we are working on a 2016 Honda Fireblade. As you can see, this is a stunning example of what Honda can do when they put their minds to it. What we're doing here is cracking off the retaining pins for the brake pads. We do this first before removing the caliper. This makes it an easier thing to do. If you try to get it off when the caliper's off, you're going to be fighting against holding the caliper whilst trying to crack those pins off. Once the pins are cracked off and removed, we are then going to remove the 14mm retaining bolts for the caliper using my beautiful 3/8 snap-on ratchet. This is one of my favourite tools, I'd like to point out, and in a second you'll see why. Before I crack off the next bolt, you'll see me pick up my torque wrench and click it to the undo side of the torque wrench. I did this just to see what the previous technician had done those bolts up to, because they're meant to be done up somewhere between 30 and 40 Newton meters. These were done up to about 25 Newton meters, which is fine as there was Loctite, so you know it wasn't going to fall out, and didn't fall out. Look at my face, look at that gormless look on it as I stare at the wall undoing that bolt, thinking I could have worked really hard in school and been a banker, or you know, an investment person, been a millionaire driving a Porsche, playing golf in a Pringle top. But no, here I am, sat at the side of a motorcycle ramp, working on a motorcycle. Eventually these bolts will come out, and I will continue to demonstrate and talk to you what you have to do when you're doing these things. But as you can see, that they're taking some time. Look, twisty, twisty, undoey, undoey. Oh, any minute now. No, they're still not out. I think Honda made them so long that they can reach to China. Oh no, here it comes. Finger tight now. Oh, there's one. Yay! I did a thing. The next one will be out in a second. It's coming. Nope, still not there. Almost there. Oh, riveting. Well done, Christopher, you did a thing. You got, no, still not finger tight. Oh no. Really should have just got a buzz gun on that. Buzzed it out. Buzzed. I would like to point out, when I made the comment about the buzz gun, that mechanics that use buzz guns to buzz everything out continuously really drive me mad. It's like one big weeing competition amongst technicians. My buzz gun's got more Newton meters than your buzz gun and goes more. As you can see now, both bolts are out and the caliper is now loose and dangling. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get some brake cleaner and a lovely little brush that I got from one of those motorcycle cleaning companies, and I can't remember what it is. I think it might be the Chain Monkey company. I can't remember now. It's one of them. And we're going to spray it with a load of brake cleaner, get in there and give it a good scrub, getting all of the brake dust and dirt that we don't want on there. Because the brake dust will get onto the caliper sliding pins and stop it sliding, and we want brakes sliding freely. Because I don't suppose anyone can guess what happens when brakes don't slide freely. They tend to lock up, and that's when we end up getting, you know, smeared up the road. On a very serious note, it is actually extremely important that you service your vehicle, whether it be a car or a motorcycle, a van or a truck, regularly. Incorrect service schedules can cause all sorts of problems with vehicles, whether it be braking problems or running problems. And what we don't want as technicians is you crying to us because you've missed your service for several years in a row and your engine is going clackety clackety bang bang. That's your own fault. Get an oil change done regularly. Now I've cleaned all the dirty, nasty, grimy crap off of the caliper and all the caliper components, I'm going to use my really quite nice new snap-on caliper winding tool. This cost me 68 quid plus the VAT. Yep, that's right, 68 quid plus the VAT. But it is well worth that money. I know you can get cheaper ones, but I use this nearly every day and it never lets me down. And it has such a smooth ratchet and it makes such a fine click that I like it more than I'd like a cheap one that makes too much clanking noises for my liking. Although we're not changing the pads because they're in perfectly serviceable condition, we're still pushing the pistons back to make sure that they move freely. I don't have to do this, but it's good practice to do so. Now I'm going to take the good old-fashioned brake cleaner that mechanics use for everything, including getting some diesels started when they don't want to, and I'm going to clean all the components that go in the brake caliper up individually. I'm going to clean the brake pads up, the caliper sliding pins, and of course I'm going to clean the caliper retaining bolts up and use more Loctite on them to ensure that they stay in their position. Loctite is king of the castle. I don't care what manufacturer Loctite you use, although that is a brand. The stuff is extremely valuable to technicians and anyone working on vehicles. No one wants bolts coming loose when you're riding or driving down the road. It's also a really good anti-corrosion product. When you put Loctite or a type of Loctite on your bolts, it holds them in place and stops moisture getting down the threads, causing them to corrode. So therefore you don't have to fight so hard with it when it comes to, trying to get them out, because they haven't rusted or corroded in the holes. And aluminium and forms of mild steel do like to corrode against each other and make life difficult. Any of you who've worked on cars and bikes know this when you try to take a mild steel bolt out of a cylinder head that holds your exhaust pipes in. I bet you've all snapped one. I know I have, and had to drill it out. The little yellow squeezy container that looks like a toothpaste container I've just picked up is called Ceratec. It is a specific type of brake grease, a high melting point brake grease. I don't use copper slip on brake components anymore. That's old-fashioned stuff, and we've moved beyond that. We now have specified brake greases to grease brake components that need to be greased up. Please don't grease the pad part of your brake pads. They're not meant to be greased up. If you do that, your brakes won't work. What we've got here is we've got some Permatex blue thread locker. That's not Loctite, that's Permatex. I do like the Permatex stuff. It's really, really good quality. I'd like to thank Alan Milliard for introducing me to Permatex, because I always used Loctite as a brand before that. I'm not sponsored by any of these companies, I'm just telling you the ones that I like to use. I use a little bit of blue Loctite on the caliper slider pins to stop the corrosion more than holding them in, because they're only really torqued up to about 12 Newton meters. They don't need to be wanged in really tight. You really shouldn't just go wanging it in. I'm wiping any of the excess off of the caliper because these are really beautiful gold calipers, and seeing a bit of blue Loctite stuck to it wouldn't be very nice for the customer or anyone looking at the bike, to be honest. And it's just, again, good practice to make sure that you don't leave products smeared all over the customer's motorcycle. And again, there is the red Permatex. The red Permatex is more of a permanent Loctite, or thread locker, sorry, and the blue one is a less permanent one. I've also got a purple one that I use, which is not permanent in any way, shape or form, that I put on the fairing bolts to stop them undoing. Oh, here's the demonstration on why I like my 3/8 drive snap-on ratchet so much. See, I can flex head it like that and then just pump the bolts in. See, look at me pumping the bolt in. It's, pumping it in. And you can't really do stuff up too tight with it like that either. Just on a different note, nothing to do with motorcycles at all, I'd like to thank my barber for getting a really nice do on my hair there. I've never seen the back of my head for so long. Being that my eyes are in the front of it, it's really difficult for me to see the back of my head. Now, the next important step whenever you're doing anything to do with brakes or important components on a motorcycle or car is to pick up the torque wrench and torque the bolts up to the specified foot-pounds of torque, or Newton meters, or pounds-feet of torque, whichever way round it is. I don't care, I work in Newton meters. You'll notice here as well, in a minute, I'm going to go too far. It's gone red. I'll do the next one up, and I'll undo that, and then redo it back up. Because if it's gone red on my torque wrench, it means I've done it up too tight. And too tight can be just as bad as too loose. You can stretch the threads, causing them to come loose. This is why we don't use buzz guns and ooga-dooga stuff. Now to torque the sliding pins up to make sure they are torqued up to the correct standard, and they also won't work loose or be too tight and cause damage. And apart from pumping the front brake to make sure you don't ride the bike down the road and pull the brake and it doesn't work, that is a caliper stripped and serviced to a good standard.